Hi everyone, Tim Brown. Welcome back to my Apple Podcast, the podcast that makes a personal connection to everything Apple. Well, I finally received a message from Apple indicating that my gold iPhone 5S will arrive in a couple of weeks, a little over a month after I ordered the phone online from Apple's website. So, in the meantime, I delved headlong into iOS 7 in order to temper my anxiety just a bit. Yet, as you can tell from my previous episodes, my anxiety is now coupled with conflicted feelings about the human interface. There are three main areas that define the excellence of Apple products, in my opinion: industrial design, engineering, and human interface design. The first, largely attributed to the genius of Jonathan Ive, exhibits an economy of design that is, pure brilliance, reminiscent of classic design principles that recall the Bauhaus school of thought and the design genius of, say, Dieter Rams. If you are wondering why Apple chose to embrace this economy of design on the level of hardware and software, consider Dieter Rams' 10 principles of design, sometimes referred to as the 10 commandments. So I found the 10 commandments, or the 10 principles of design, as they pertain to Dieter Rams' philosophy on the website vitza.com. You can check it out for yourself. So let's see how the 10 principles coincide with Apple's philosophy of design. The first one, good design is innovative. The possibilities for innovation are not by any means exhausted. Technological development is always offering new opportunities for innovative design, but innovative design always develops in tandem with innovative technology and can never be an end in itself. Sound familiar? 2. Good design makes a product useful. A product is bought to be used. It has to satisfy certain criteria, not only functional but also psychological and aesthetic. Good design emphasizes the usefulness of a product whilst disregarding anything that could possibly distract from it. This item is important, as Tim Cook remarked in a recent Bloomberg interview. Does a unit of market share matter if it's not being used? For us, it matters that people use our products. 3. Good design is aesthetic. The aesthetic quality of a product is integral to its usefulness because products we use every day affect our person and our well-being. But only well-executed objects can be beautiful. Now, aesthetics is where it gets a bit tricky. While it is Apple's goal to create a seamless experience, aesthetics relies upon personal taste, and the visuals associated with iOS 7 can get in the way of this experience. 4. Good design makes a product understandable. It clarifies the product structure. Better still, it can make the product talk. At best, it is self-explanatory. With iOS 7, some of the human interface elements are obviously a lot more effective than others. We'll talk about that a little later. Good design is unobtrusive. Products fulfilling a purpose are like tools. They are neither decorative objects nor works of art. Their design should therefore be both neutral and restrained, to leave room for the user's self-expression. Again, some of the visuals are a bit obtrusive, if we can use that word, and self-expression is hindered by the imposition of Apple's design criteria. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we cover some examples of the user interface elements that Apple employs. Good design is honest. It does not make a product more innovative, powerful, or valuable than it really is. It does not attempt to manipulate the consumer with promises that cannot be kept. Now, Ive has commented on several occasions that the user experience should be so intuitive that you find there is no rational alternative. The goal here is definitely honesty. Good design is long-lasting. It avoids being fashionable and therefore it never appears antiquated. Unlike fashionable design, it lasts many years, even in today's throwaway society. No one ever referred to Apple's hardware as fashionable. Next, good design is thorough down to the last detail. Nothing must be arbitrary or left to chance. Care and accuracy in the design process show respect towards the user. Everything appears simple on the surface, but if you take a look at the iOS 7 design resources available for developers, you will discover that a lot of thought was given to the new operating system, in spite of what may now appear as unintended consequences. Next, good design is environmentally friendly. Design makes an important contribution to the preservation of the environment. It conserves resources and minimizes physical and visual pollution throughout the life cycle of the product. One example of this is evident in Apple's decision to use colored plastic for the iPhone 5C, and yet to present it as if it was a precious jewel. And last, good design is as little design as possible. Less but better, because it concentrates on the essential aspects and the products are not burdened with non-essentials. Back to purity, back to simplicity. Ding, ding, ding. This is the mantra we have heard often, the view that eventually led to the complete dissolution of skeuomorphism. The high principles of design that preoccupy the experts at Apple may appear to the average user as lofty attempts to appeal to the masses. For example, while critics have praised the new design, I have had several exchanges with people who have refused to even download the latest operating system and or who have downloaded iOS 7 reluctantly, mainly due to the unexpected and surprisingly gay pastel colors coupled with the absence of design that make the iPhone look plain and unattractive. And yes, there is a new iPhone, but that's not the big news. Published September 17, 2013, New York Times tech blogger David Pogue wrote the following. The look of iOS 7 is sparse, white, almost plain in spots. No more fake leather, fake wood grain, fake green felt, fake yellow notepaper. It's all blue Helvetica new against the white. The complete absence of graphic embellishments makes it especially utilitarian, says Pogue, in both senses of the word. That's good because whatever button or function you need is easier to find. It's bad because, well, it can look a little boring. Pogue seems to suggest that once you get by the visuals, you will discover a much improved user experience. Pogue's conclusion? I think you should install it. The structure, layout, and features represent some of Apple's best work. The look of iOS 7, well, that judgment is up to you. And therein lies the rub. Apple's three wise men, Tim Cook, Jonathan Ive, and Craig Federighi, stated in the famous article that appeared in Bloomsburg how important it was to create a seamless experience. They were very effective at addressing the problems of latency, and you definitely feel the process of navigating through the phone is a lot smoother and intuitive. This smoothness is evident when the subjectivity of the user is not hindered by the product, the objective conditions of the hardware. In a sense, the product becomes a natural extension of oneself. And Apple achieves this through the ingenious design of the hardware and the engineering that comprises the parallaxing, motion graphics, and the technical sophistication of new features like the fingerprint sensor. Yet, when Pogue mentioned that in the end, quote, the look was up to you, unquote, he essentially identified a roadblock in which the user's subjectivity becomes confronted with visual elements that in many cases thwart the seamless experience that Apple strives to achieve. Now, when the user sees the end product, everything appears quite simple and direct. This works, that doesn't work. We rarely see the complexity and level of sophistication that goes into designing the hardware and software of products like the iPhone. For example, let's explore some human interface elements that underlie the complexity of iOS 7 and consider how these elements are encountered by everyday users. On Apple's website, you will find an animation that reveals the thoughtfulness that went into the designs, including a style grid that serves as the underlying structure for the graphic elements and icons. The grid architecture is obviously intended to add consistency to the icon designs, including those submitted by developers, and to provide a foundation for a flatter, simpler design. Okay, let's revisit the 10 Commandments for a moment. Good design is aesthetic. This is where I get a bit confused about Apple's intentions. On the one hand, design elements are flatter, and in some cases, the minimalist aesthetic is evident in some of the revisions, as in the case of the Notes application. Yet, where minimalism and white space underwhelm us, color unexpectedly overloads our sensory perceptions. The tints, for example, found in the icons for iTunes Music, iTunes Store, App Store, and camera applications, are limited to 2 tones. They are very effective in their simplicity, and then we are confronted with the color bubbles associated with Game Center and the rainbow daisy that defines the Photos app. In other cases, the color not only appears odd, but contributes to a lack of clarity, as in the Passbook icon and reminders. Good design makes a product useful. iOS 7 can definitely be praised for the added features that enhance the user experience, including multitasking, Control Center, iTunes Radio, and the wish list, and customizable settings for making text larger and bolder. Also, in the guidelines for developers, Apple also makes recommendations for how to make the best use of table views, segmented controls, and navigation bars. In each case, Apple prefers translucency to the gradient bars that came with iOS 6, making the entire surface appear white. Instead of tonal registers, the entire surface appears like a plain text document. iOS 7 can also be very difficult to navigate because Apple chose to create menu icons in the form of very thin outlines that, coupled with their overt simplicity, confounds the task they are intended to carry out. The lack of clarity is largely due to the fact that Apple chose to add tints to their colors rather than shades. With tints, typically, according to color theory, you add white to lighten the hue. For shades, you add black to darken the hue. So what we have throughout iOS 7 are tints that are so light that they're barely visible, especially when that lack of clarity is reinforced by the linear designs. For example, I have Pixelmator open right now, and I'm going to demonstrate how this works. So I have blue straight from the color picker, and I'm going to go ahead and make this blue lighter by using the slider. This will be equivalent to me adding white to the blue to create a tint. And this is the type of tint that you see in some of the colored links. Now the alternative would be to add a shade, which would mean to add black to it and make it darker. It could very well be that the darker blue could add more clarity to the links. Superb product design and clever engineering feats are what characterize the brilliance of iOS 7. The graphic elements woven into the human user interface are less than desirable. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of My Apple Podcast. My name is Tim Brown. Check me out next time.